Empowerment Show aims to equip individuals with the necessary tools, knowledge, and confidence to make informed decisions and take control of their lives. It also focuses on ensuring access to essential resources and the opportunities.
Hey everyone, it's your comrade Brother John, also known as Hard Truth. Today I want to shed some light on a critical issue that impacts our communities: mental health and substance abuse. Recent studies show that over 20% of adults in America experience mental illness, and a staggering 14% struggle with substance use disorders. This isn't just a number, it's affecting real lives and contributing to the rise in violence across the nation. We need to address these issues head on and support one another. Advocate for better resources in our community. Let's work together to make a difference. Peace.
Good morning. My name is
Good
Marvin
morning.
Jones. I'm a substance use disorder counselor. I'm also in recovery as well. I've been in this field for over 6 years, and the struggle's real. The mental health with the combination of the substance use disorder is dividing families. It's destroying communities, and we're losing lives by the droves. So what I do is I try to help these brothers get back on a path to a healthier way of living, opposed to becoming a slave to their substance use disorder or not addressing their mental health issues. I'm currently a KSAT. Like I said, I've been in this field for over 6 years as an assistant to helping these brothers. But as far as the substance use disorder, I've been in substance use for over 40 years. So I know what it's like, I know what it takes, and I know it's going to take a whole bunch of brothers and sisters to help us pull it together. Because me doing it by myself is not going to work. As a result of me getting healthy and stuff like that, I had to turn to a number of individuals: substance use counselors, mental health counselors, psychiatrists, therapists, and the list goes on and on and on. A lot of people are under they believe that if a person stops using substances and just take their prescribed medication, they're going to be all right. Unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit more than that, because once they overcome this way, they must learn to maintain this way of living. And by doing that, a lot of people already know what to do. They just don't know how to get to it. Like the kids say, they don't know how to get to the bag. But it is definitely having a big impact over the not just in New York, but all over the country. And
Absolutely.
I know if I can assist one person in helping them turn their lives around, then I know I've done a good job.
That's great. Marvin, let me ask you, what do you see are the biggest barriers from people even asking for help?
Um, uh, Admitting, that's admitting. Some people are so traumatized that they normalize that way of life. So once they start to understand and recognize that, this is not the way to go, then, but a lot of people come into treatment, they're already in the second stage, which is the pre-contemplation stage, and then you have the contemplation stage. So, and in the contemplation stage, they know that something is wrong and they need to change. So that's where I come in at, to help clients
Yeah.
recognize and find out which direction they want to move to. But as far as obstacles, once they come through the door, um, the miracle has already happened, so to speak. Now, the thing is to get them to understand the concept of the addiction, the concept of the mental health, and the importance of following a daily regimen until you get stronger and you can devise your own regimen. But hopefully, you keep a lot of these things in play to help you sustain your your way of life, your healthier way of life.
Yes, I heard you mention mental health along with the addiction concept. From your perspective, do they go hand in hand?
Absolutely, they can, because what happens is some people have self-induced mental health issues that comes from the substances, but then you have people with mental health disorders who try to use illicit substances to help them get their mental health under control. So I believe they do go hand in hand. Absolutely.
Interesting. And how about the family dynamic? Do
Oh
you
my God, that is such a large part because the addiction is a family disease.
hmm,
And it affects. I try to express that to clients all the time. It affects your the people that love you the most, your family, whether you're doing good or right, whichever direction you're heading in, you're taking them with you. Especially if there's children's involved, there's marriages involved. You know, that's where all the other agencies come in and they get involved in things like that. So it definitely has a great impact on the family. So in actuality, family and recovery is going to be an essential part of regaining their sanity, so to speak, or getting back on course, you know. But that can also be a fine line because what happens is a lot of them have a tendency of forgetting about themselves in the process and make it all about the family. And God forbid something happens to the family, then they just lose it. So it's important that they understand that it has to start with them first in order for it to, you know, and not just talk about it. You know, the audio and the video has to match because, especially with children, because you can tell children one thing, but then you're doing something else and they see the difference. And that's where the confusion comes in
you, that's
at.
excellent.
So,
Do you find that's excellent information, and I'm glad that you're able to share this information because it's important for the viewers. Do you find that substance abuse and mental health is affecting the youth, more rapidly than it has in the past, or does
absolutely,
it?
because
All right.
the family dynamic has been broken in a lot of these areas that I deal with. Because I usually go into the when I was doing outreach, I go into the worst neighborhoods. So the family structure is already destroyed. You know, like I said, they're so traumatized, they normalize it and not
Mm.
even realizing it. You know, a lot of stuff that these guys experience, the average person wouldn't do it. They would probably commit suicide or some other drastic stuff. So yeah, you know,
So that sounds
that's where
pretty
I'm looking at.
traumatic. That
Yeah,
sounds pretty traumatic.
it is.
And
It
and
is.
and, and
It
with
is
this
up close
trauma,
and personal.
yeah,
It is. You know, a person reading about it and seeing about it, you know, they might think, well, why they just don't stop using? You know, because it's more than just that. This has become a way of life for them. So now
yeah.
you're asking them to change their way of life. And some people have been doing this most of their lives, like three-quarters of their lives. So, you know, that's why it's going to take a whole team of people to help them get, you know, become healthier. Psychiatrists, medical, dental, mental health disorder counselors, substance use disorder counselors, and the list goes on and on and on.
So this
But,
is a
you know,
holistic
yeah,
approach. Actually, it needs to be a holistic approach to being able to assist somebody who is seeking recovery. Correct?
absolutely. 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 You need that team. You got to have that team.
Mm,
You know, because my field, my lane is substance use disorder. That's my lane. But I can
yes.
pick up on other things. And so if I have those people on my team, I can address them right there, you know. And if not, then I will find, you know, what they need, you know, because I can pick up on certain things. But like with grieving, some people, the loss of a loved one, they'll
Mm.
go into addiction. Some people it's because they went to surgery, they had medication, they become addicted to the medications. It's a lot of different factors. There's no two safe two cases the same. The only thing that's the same is the trauma and the pain.
Yes, I agree. Do you believe the stigma adds to people not wanting to go get help because they feel like they're
Absolutely.
being judged?
Absolutely. There's stigma among each other. They stigmatize each other. Of course it is. So, you know, that's why we're moving away from certain things. That's why I don't say I'm a drug counselor. I say I'm a substance use counselor to try to help break that stigma, you know?
Yes.
And it's definitely a stigma. It's in the family dynamic. It's outside the family. We even have stigmas, you know? So, you know, that's what it is. So we try to help them by moving away from certain terminology, you know, because they can mistake it from the wrong, you know, and use it in the wrong way. Some people say I'm an addict. Some people don't. Some people say I'm a recovering addict. Some people don't say that at all, you know? So a
Yes.
lot of people try to move away from the stigma, myself included.
Can you assist the audience in understanding what trauma informed care means? If you do know what
Trauma
that
informed
is?
care
Yes.
in layman's term basically means meeting the client where they're at.
Mm.
Okay. Always the client, you have to be client centered.
Yes.
I don't put expectations on the clients. I have the clients tell me what they're trying to do. So this way I can meet them where they're at and we can form a treatment plan. And if for some reason the treatment plan is not working, we'll go back again and we'll do it again. But with me being trauma formed, I have to be careful. That's where the team comes in at, about how I approach these clients, what I say to these clients, especially the women, because the women have been through, it takes them a lot longer to come in than the men would. But when they come, they're usually broken, they're torn down, low self-esteem. They've been, the list is crazy. My approach has to always be that I'm dealing with somebody who's unhealthy, trying to get healthy. So I can't approach them
Yes.
expecting them to a guy who's been doing this for a year and expect the person just walking through the door to be the same way. So I have to always be sensitive about how I approach these clients.
Yes. It seems like you got a great hold on, the job that you do. Being in recovery yourself, what made out of all the things you could have been, what made you get into this particular field?
What happened was that when I was in treatment and the staff that they had on board, I would say out of most of them, I didn't like how they was giving us care. I didn't like how I was being treated. I didn't like how I was being talked to. Um, I didn't feel like I was the most important person that was there.
Mm.
And so that's what made me get in the field to help others, you know, because
Yes.
I said there has to be a different way. There has to be a better way. So in the old way, what they did was they tear them down and build them back up. But in my mind, they already came in. They're coming in tore down. So there's no need for me to tear them down anymore. It's like shooting somebody who's already down and bleeding out. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to
Yeah.
assist them and help them get back up.
I got you, man. That's great. That's a lot of great work you're putting in. You're on the front line and you're assisting
Hmm.
people getting their lives together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's very commendable. And
Thank
that's
you.
what we do over here, at Trop Worldwide, the rebuilding the people. It's an
Hmm.
organization that seeks out to support and help those that are in need. And you're definitely doing a great job with that, Marvin. Um,
Yeah.
Now, one more thing, a few more things actually. Medicated assisted treatment. Can you share with the audience who may not know what that is and how that helps
Yeah.
people that's dealing with substance use disorder?
Yeah. See,
Hmm.
with the medical, medical assistant treatment, you have some naysayers and you have some that are yaysayers. What the
Hmm.
medical assistant treatment is, a lot of these guys have been dealing with large quantities of different sorts of opiates and stuff like that. So they're on urge. Their anxiety is all crazy. So with the medicated assistant treatment, it helps. It depends what kind you're taking, because you have some that blocks the receptors so you don't feel that sensation. Then you have some that produces the same effect, but it's being monitored by a licensed physician. And with that, they're able to go to work, they're able to sustain relationships, they're able to live a healthier life. So, but
Yes.
then you have the people that say, one drug, a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. But like you said, I have to be trauma informed. I have to meet the client where they're at and stuff like that. It's not my decision. It's up to them, and if it
Awesome.
works, if it's saving lives, that's what it does. That's the meaning behind the MATs, to help save lives.
To help save lives. That's great. On that note, we're going to take a commercial break from our sponsors and we'll be right back in a moment. Thank you
All
for
right.
tuning in.
The Empowerment Show aims to equip individuals with the necessary tools, knowledge, and confidence to make informed decisions and take control of their lives. It also focuses on ensuring access to essential resources and the opportunities.
Welcome back to Mr. G's Hard Truth, Mental Health and Substance Abuse Edition. We have Marvin Jones here. Marvin, the next question that I have is, what suggestion would you have to the youth who have no idea what they're getting themselves into for picking up a drug
Say
nowadays?
again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Jump.
And not a problem. What suggestion or information do you have for the youth who may be out not knowing what they're getting themselves into by picking up drugs in these days and times?
Yeah. Wow. That's where the youth counseling begins. Because in a lot of communities, certain substances are normalized. Alcohol, marijuana.
Hmm.
A lot of people consider those to be the gateway drugs to other substances. Um, so the lack of knowledge, I would say, would be the problem, and that would have to begin with the youth. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
it can come from anywhere, but especially the youth. What I do is I inform, my grandkids and my children about the dangers of illicit substances, and where it can lead to, where it took me, and things of that nature. So I educate them on it. So lack of education is a big barrier when it comes to warning and uplifting a community.
Yes. And there's fentanyl and xylazine that's out nowadays.
Woo.
Yeah. I want to touch on that as well. We need to bring up the
Yeah.
awareness on that and the different drugs that the different illicit substances that they may be contained in. Can you run through a variation of those for us, please?
Yeah. These substances are super dangerous. They have no scent. They can be disguised as other illicit substances. They're even goes so far as to putting fentanyl into marijuana these days. Um, wow, that there is dangerous. And a lot of people that I've encountered have addictions for those two toxic drugs because it's highly toxic.
Yeah.
It's like, I would imagine it's like shooting using rat poison, something like that,
Hmm.
and it's so dangerous. That's where the knowledge comes
Horrible.
in, and if they're gonna continue to use, it's recommended you don't use by yourself. You know,
Okay.
because it just takes a pinch of fentanyl to kill a man.
Yeah.
And then you have people who move away from the substances and then reintroduce themselves back to it. That's very dangerous because your body will go into a shock, so to speak, once you get it out your system and then you reintroduce it to your system. And it's highly addictive, highly, highly addictive.
Yes.
Um, and the withdrawals, sometimes the withdrawals can take weeks, months. It'll go, it'll come back. You get like jerking sensations when they're coming off of it and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's important that they're watched by a medical team during this detox process, or because you're not allowed to enter treatment, a long-term treatment, without going to a detox prior to coming there, because that's how bad these substances are.
Gotcha. That sounds like a crucial process to have to go through.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah, it's
what?
a
What?
it's a pro- it's a trying, actually it's a lifelong process,
Yes.
but they have to get, because a lot of, like I said at the very beginning, a lot of people think once the substances are removed, then it's done. No, 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 no. Then the work begins once the substances are removed. Then we can start educating. Then we can start guiding. Then we can start supporting, and things like
Yeah.
that, until they reach that point. And then once they reach that point, they have to continue to maintain it. You can't think that it's lit, because you have to always keep in mind whatever got you to this point, you have to continue to do to maintain that point before you can move on to another point. And like I said, things happen, and the sport groups, they tell you to live life on life's terms. They're talking about the worst of the worst times. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the good times. When everything is good, everything is good. It's when everything starts to go wrong, is when a lot of these people are turning to illicit substances and alcohol, marijuana, cocaine. fentanyl, not knowing that they're constantly slowly being addicted to fentanyl, because like I said, it's mixed there. They're putting it in everything. Only thing I didn't hear that it wasn't mixed in as of yet is alcohol.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's sad because a
Yeah,
lot of people are going to die from
yeah,
lack of information.
yeah.
Um, how about these Narcan and Xylazine strips that they have? Do you guys have these readily available in these treatment facilities in case
Yes,
somebody gets tempted to
yes,
use?
yes.
Okay.
But unfortunately, at this facility where I work at, what I mean, fortunately, what they do is they find like paraphernalia and stuff and will test it like that. This is
Okay.
not the type of facility I'm in. We don't give those strips to clients
Yes.
because that would just encourage them to use while they're in treatment. Those strips are
Gotcha.
usually given to people like in outpatient treatment if they're still indulgent, so this way they can test the substance prior to using.
Okay. Okay. This is some great information. I hope people are processing it and willing to share it. Um, so, with that all being said, what message do you have for the public when it comes to substance use disorder?
Don't ignore it. Don't turn a blind eye to it. Because it has a tendency of showing its ugly side when it comes to addiction. A lot of people like to believe that, oh, it's just a phase and stuff like that. It must, where it requires immediate intervention at any age, at any level, because there's different levels of care. Um, you have people that have severe disorders, you have people that have mild disorder. So, like, but you can't turn a blind eye to it. And you got to stop normalizing it. I don't allow no substances in my home. I don't have any alcohol, no beer, no marijuana, and I don't allow that in my house. Um, because it's not good, it's not healthy. So I don't promote that. A person's gonna do what they're gonna do, but when it comes to certain places, like my place of employment, is unacceptable, and in my home is unacceptable. So
Yes.
once a person incorporates that into their life, then it makes a big change, and it all begins with one person, and that's my job, to help one
Yeah,
person. That's it, to assist them.
I got it. Thank you so much, Marvin, for
All right.
joining us.
Yep.
Welcome to Mr. G's Hard Truth,
Okay.
Mental Health and Substance Abuse Edition. And I just want to say one thing. When I asked Marvin to pop up on the show, it was no question about it. He was willing to do it because he wanted to give back to the community. So I thank you
Mm-hmm.
very much. Salute to
Yep.
you, Marvin, and you have a great day.
All right.
Peace.
Yep.